My name is Chidi. I'm the author of Coming to Canada, the Ultimate Success Guide. I am grateful to ACCES for the opportunity to share my story today with you guys. And hopefully we will be able to learn one or two things from what we have done and where we have come from. As a background to this story, we came to Canada in 2017 at the start of the fall season. We thought then it was the bitter winter season. Coming from a hot country, we thought what we had jammed was the winter. We didn't know it was just the fall. And so it was very cold when we came in. But what was amazing about that situation then was that we also experienced the warmth of the Canadian people. So while the environment was brutal for us, we felt welcome, we felt belonged, we felt that we are in a community, and that was one of the most amazing things that happened at that particular time. So I am grateful for this opportunity to share this journey, and I've looked at it and say the vision, the resilience, and the impact. So through this 45 minutes that I will be having this conversation with you, this will be the key things I will like to cover. First is to give you upfront the key takeaways, I'll give you a background of what we are coming from, show you what we faced and what we did, what we achieved, and what we learned. So 3 quick takeaways from today will be whether you are wherever the stage of your Canadian journey, whether you're coming in from outside pre-arrivals, whether you've landed in Canada and you are trying to figure out the settlement maze, just keep at it. Just keep at it and be strategic. Number 2 is that remember that one day your story will inspire, just that like I have come across today to come and tell my stories in the hope that it will inspire you. A generation of people that whose faces you may not see, whose names you may not know, will come across your story and they will also be inspired. And number 3 is that no matter what it is that you find in your hands that you are doing, with every effort, improve the dream. Remember why you've come to Canada. Remember what you hope to achieve in Canada, and keep that dream alive and work at it. So what did we live? What was life before coming to Canada? I had a banking career where I have spent over 17 years rising to middle management. I had a thriving family business that we had developed from an idea as a startup to become very profitable. Of course, we had outstanding networks of friends and family to support us in all that we do. So we left the sure grounds of knowing family, knowing friends that we have grown with, up with, and coming to Canada with almost nobody. You know, we didn't even have any family in Canada, but we decided we were going to come. And it was that itch, that thing, that push in us to say we could do better than this, to get, we could do better than we're doing now, especially for ourselves and also particularly for the kids, that made us to take this decision to leave all that we've achieved, we're doing. My wife had a thriving academic career. She was lecturing in the university, was doing her PhD, and then we left all of those to come to Canada. So the question then would be, what the vision then will be, and question will be, what made us leave for Canada with all that we are doing as more or less successful middle income, middle class professionals where we're coming from. And the first is the great expectation that, well, we're going to come into a place for great quality of life. We wanted to take advantage of globalization, knowing that if we are settled in Canada, then we can use Canada as a platform to launch globally, to get global attention, to access global resources, and to impact the world. We also had the dream that so many of the talents that we have will have the opportunity to express them. The kids will be able to show forth their talents, and everybody will be growing at the same rate, and people will impact their world. We believe that coming to Canada will give us, obviously, that opportunity, a new opportunity to explore the world from a different perspective. Canada is old, yet Canada is young, because we've also been widely traveled. And so we know there are more opportunities for us in Canada than in the other parts of the world that we had the option of going to, and that we've also visited. So we made that decision to come to Canada. What we faced, well, as I mentioned in the opening, we landed in Edmonton, beautiful city, wonderful place. It's a lovely, lovely, colorful place. If you haven't decided where you're heading to, I would say consider Edmonton. It's a very great place to live. It's a great place to raise your kids, and it's also a wonderful place in terms of the environment and the scenery. The sunsets and the sunrise in Edmonton is amazing. But one thing that we didn't reckon with was the brutal Alberta weather. We thought that we had seen cold weathers traveling around the world, but in Alberta, we saw something that we couldn't describe. And when the weather in the cold week of February, where you have that cold blanket and you are experiencing minus 45 degrees, that's when you now start asking yourself, why did I leave? What brought me to Canada and all that? But it was an experience that we've gone through, and we believe that it had made us stronger, our resilience higher than if we hadn't. In spite of that Alberta cold, we also felt, like I mentioned, the warmth of the Canadian people. Strangers see you on the road and they smile. People see you on the transit and they want to engage. Folks meet you on the streets and they're asking questions about you. You go out with your kids and they're genuinely interested. We met people who were genuinely interested in us, not just from the sense of being curious, but genuinely very interested in us. We met people who went out of their ways to make us comfortable. We saw folks who opened their homes to us, even when we are strangers. We saw people who went out of their ways to help us in our job search, in our accommodation, who gave us information, who gave us encouragement. And this were so heartwarming. I believe that it helped us truly in feeling belonged in the community where we landed. And of course, the ever-present culture shock. So there were a couple of things that we felt that we are used to in terms of the fact that we've been widely traveled for work, for leisure, for education, and for pleasure. However, the culture shock we met in Canada, none of those prepared us for it, okay? So there are so many things that we realized that we're different from where we're coming. I'll give you an example. We come from a country background where people are very boisterous, very full of energy, very pushful. And then we come into Canada, and one of the first things you notice is Canadians are not very aggressive. They're very assertive, but not very aggressive. And the difference could be very, very marked when you come in as a new person. And also the way people interact, even the accent. Somebody, you'll be speaking and somebody will say, can't you speak English? And you wonder because you've been trained all your life in the English language, right? So if you are in Canada and you're listening to this, I will invite you to drop some of the things that were shocking to you in terms of culture shock. Let's share it, you can share it in the chat. Let's see how many of them that you can remember. And those who are coming from outside, if you are here from outside, it would be nice to think about this and let me know what you think about culture shock. What are the things that you have heard about Canada, you've researched about Canada that is slightly different from where you are at? Because I like to make this a very interactive section. Okay. So the other thing was, again, lack of information about the settlement process, the settlement maze. So we came in and we didn't have one comprehensive resource that we could get to help us with the settlement process. So we go to a couple of settlement agencies and they were somehow focused. For example, some were focused on employment, some were focused on health, some were focused on different aspects of the settlement process. We couldn't find a book that could speak to us through the whole stages of our settlement process. And so we had to find, and then the friends and families that we had, the information that they had at the time mostly were outdated because they had stayed in Canada for a long time and they had moved out of looking for a job, etc., etc. So we had to find our way through navigating the employment process, finding where resume, how to structure a resume, finding where webinars are being done, fairs are being done, etc., just like you are doing now. But it was quite difficult because we didn't have that much information when we came in. And so that was one of the things that led me to writing the book that I did, so that others coming behind will have something upon arrival, or even before they come in, that will guide them and say, this is what you are going to face, and this is how we faced it, and this is how you are going to succeed in the long run. Because it's important for me that everybody who comes to Canada, no matter where you come from, you succeed. The reason is I have gone through this and I want you to succeed, and I want us to give our best to this country that has opened the doors and that's given us so much opportunity. I call it the promised land. Again, the period when we came to Canada was the period there was a lot of too much glut in the labor market. So the downturn in the economy, people were laid off. There were so many people looking for a job. And so you are coming into that mix to compound even the job numbers and the such. So it was a lot difficult. By the time you are even getting close to the job, people who already have the magical Canadian experience have taken it up. Okay. So we that didn't have the Canadian experience, we had so much going against us. Also going against us were the implicit bias in the job market. So I have mentioned here the one about Canadian experience. There are so many. The fact that some of the experiences that education and experiences that we had that qualified us to come to Canada, we will be the first to be discounted by the employer. So it seems to me, in some sense, that there is a disconnect between the government and the employers. Government certified us, gave us permanent residency because of our experience, because of our education, and because of our background. And then when you come in, those are the very first things sometimes that will be discounted by the employers, who tell you that you don't have Canadian experience. Now, you need Canadian experience to get Canadian job, and you need Canadian job to build up Canadian experience. How are you expected as a newcomer to figure out that quagmire? The answers to some of those questions are contained in the book I wrote, and is not actually the focus of this. And so I will invite you to take a look at it. So just keep the questions. When I finish, I will come to them. So what did we do? We dug in. So usually I tell everybody who's coming to Canada that if you don't have this one virtue you should get, which is resilience, the ability for you to say, I will succeed. It doesn't matter how long, it doesn't matter what it takes, it doesn't matter what I do, as long as it's not immoral, as long as it's not amoral, as long as it's not illegal, I will succeed. So we dug in. You know, we burned the bridges, as it were, when we were coming in here. So we had just two options: to succeed or to succeed. No going back, no leaving Canada. We've come in to stay. We decided that we will make a success of it. So first of all is that mental state where we say we have come in and nothing is going to stop us now. So we dug in, and then we showed up. We showed up for activities in the community. We showed up for connections in the community, networking in the community. The things that are happening around us, we showed up. We showed up for job fairs. We showed up for information sections like this one. We asked and sought for information because that's the single biggest thing that can help you in Canada, information. So much is happening that you don't know of. But the minute you get aware about these things, it will help you strengthen and fast track your settlement in the land. So we showed up. We also asked for help. Part of the challenge that some of us that come into Canada, we have is the ability to seek for help, to raise our hands and say, hey, can I, please, could you help me? Statistics have shown that only 30%, 25% actually, only 25% of the jobs that are available in the market are published either online or posted on boards, etc., etc. 75% of them are in what you call the hidden job market. So the hidden job market are those ones where people within organizations know there are vacancies. Organizations ask their current employers to recommend people that they know to fill out those vacancies. So if you are waiting, for example, to hear about job posting, sometimes before you hear it, before you see it, the organization will have shortlisted some of the people that they want to interview. And they're just sending that advert just to fulfill all righteousness, all legal righteousness. So you need to ask for help. You need to say, I am looking for help in this way. I am looking for a job in this field. I am looking for a job in this industry. I'm actually looking for a job to keep me going. Because again, there's what you call the transition job. And so you can ask for support from your network. Transition jobs are the things that you do to pay your bills while you're looking for the things that you know you qualify and you experience for. And all of us did, most of us did. By the way, there are two things to know about the Canadian job process, job experience. So some people come in here and automatically, or first, they get the jobs that they desire, and that is great. Some others, their employment might take a little longer. So between when they come in and when they get that desired position, you have bills to pay, you have kids to take care of, you have taxes to pay, you have things to do. So you take the transition jobs, the jobs that are available that can pay you to keep your, so you ask for help, you know. And then we also help others. I realized that in the course of this, even when we were struggling, we were still willing to help others because that's also how you build that community. So we get information about job fairs, we tell other people, we shared resume, we shared job links, we talked to people, we did dry run for interviews, we help people with their resumes, even when we are looking for jobs. So we went into our own networks to help people, to say, I know this person is looking for work, and to connect other people to the resources that are in the community. That is what it takes to build the community that help that will succeed for now and for the future. So we helped other people, we asked for help, and we helped other people. We volunteered of the both. I think it was the second or third day when we landed in Canada, and we started looking for volunteer opportunities because we knew at that particular time that what we had in our hands were more of time. We didn't have a job yet, but we had time. And so we started volunteering. At the time we were volunteering, we didn't think so much about it. It was more or less like, we've come into Canada, we need to know the community, we need to get to know people. But over time, and looking back now, I realized that was one of the best decisions that we ever took. Not only that, it made us get out of the house, the days where we don't have anything to do, so we had somewhere to go to. But from volunteering, we got our accent cleaned up a little bit. So we volunteered with the Edmonton's Food Bank, and I volunteered in the client services. And I can tell you this story. So some of the times when we come in there and the phones ring and we pick the phones and we are taking people's orders, creating accounts for them and all that, folks will say, can you get somebody who can speak English? I don't know what you're saying. I can't hear you. And I'm like, I am speaking English. All my training, all my life, I've been in English. But over time, my wife and I, we began to see a certain pattern in the communication, in the way we put our speech, in the way we talk, that made people begin to listen. So the complaints started dropping down. And we're very grateful that we went through that experience, because by the time we then got into interviews and looking for jobs, etc., that whole accent had been cleaned up a little bit. The other thing we got from volunteering, obviously, was the experience. So the fact that we volunteered for Edmonton's Food Bank was actually one of the first things that was the catalyst for the first job that we got. So we applied for this job, we shortlisted us, and they were going through our resume, and they said, you applied, you came in here when? We said September. And you said you started volunteering for the food bank in October. We said in September. You said, yeah. And so the person said, okay, so talk to me a little bit about the experience at the food bank. And after that conversation about the food bank, we were offered a job. Fourth thing we got from volunteering at the food bank, and I'm taking a little bit of time to talk about this volunteering because it's one of the things I can't recommend enough. In the book I wrote, Coming to Canada, The Ultimate Success Guide, I spoke about volunteering and the Canadian spirit, okay? And it's still that same Canadian spirit, that same volunteering that is bringing me up to share these conversations with you today. So the fourth thing that we also got out from there was, because we showed up at the food bank in time for our shift, we were dedicated on the job. We did everything that we could do as if we were being paid. Our supervisors were very happy to serve as referees for us. So we got references from them. So the only thing that we didn't get from the Edmonton Food Bank, obviously, for volunteering was the pay. But in terms of experience, in terms of reference, in terms of helping us with the Canadian work culture, in terms of increasing our network, in terms of the support system, in terms of having somewhere we could go to keep us engaged, we got it all by volunteering. So I can't speak enough about volunteering, guys. I can't speak enough about volunteering. How do you volunteer? You search for things that are closer to what you do. In the slide that will go forth, when we get there, you see me talk about being strategic. So if you want to work in the office space, or you've been working in the office space, your best bet is to look for opportunities in client services, customer services, etc., etc. Somewhere you can engage with clients, you can engage with people, you can talk to people, and you can solve problems. If you're a medical person, somebody who has a background in medicine, in the medical sciences or healthcare, it's also good that you could volunteer in the hospitals or in the clinics or in those kind of places around you, Red Cross or whatever, so that it aligns with what you want to do, with the vision that you have for going forward. The other thing that we also did, guys, was to look for temporary work. Now, this is one of the things that we learned from some of the Canadians who went out of their way to support us. We didn't know anything about temporary work. But look at the argument and look at the logic. So the organizations might want people who might want a job done, and they don't want to hire you full time. They just want you to do the job for 2-3 months, 2 weeks, whatever, 6 months, whatever. But rather than going in and bringing you in through the interview process, onboarding you and paying you so much for that short period of time, they look for these temporary agencies who will supply staff to them. Now, the agencies will have shortlisted you. The agencies will have confirmed that you are fit for the role and send you in. And that helped a lot. It helped us in 2 ways. Number one was paying our bills. So we started getting money to pay the bills. Number two, obviously, is to get the real Canadian work culture, to work in the Canadian place. So because of the temporary work agencies that I worked with then, I was able to work in Edmonton, city of Edmonton, which was a very great experience for me. I was able to work for a whole lot of industry, Go Auto. As I think about it now, I have industry experience in Canada because I work with these temporary agencies who were sending me to all kinds of places. So I worked with real estate companies. I worked with the city of Edmonton, like I mentioned. I worked with the auto industry. I worked with care industry. I worked with so many organizations that I can't even list now. The thing we also did above all was to keep our eyes on the ball. What does this mean? It means that you keep focused. No matter the distractions and the anxiety and the challenges that you have right now, and when you are looking for work, you keep your focus. One of the things that people haven't had and the government haven't spoken about and is not being addressed is the mental health impact of the relocation process, the settlement and relocation process. So people leave shore ground, people leave where they're coming from, where they have been settled, and they're coming into Canada. And they're practically starting afresh. The health and particularly the mental health impact of that whole process is something that is not being discussed, and how it impacts the family, how it impacts the children, how it impacts the wife, how it impacts all the relationships that you have. So you need to keep your eyes on the ball. Remember why you came to Canada. Remember what you want to achieve from this Canadian journey, your vision. So what did we achieve? It's been like 4 years or so since we came in here. And I don't want you to compare your journey with mine because they are different. Some of the challenges that I have gone through, you haven't. Some of your journey might be different from mine, and everybody's journey is different. Okay, that you haven't done as much of what I have listed here, for example, doesn't mean that you're a failure. It doesn't mean that you are not. They are not doing well. I'm just sharing this to encourage us to see that there's something bigger than us. There's something that we can get out of this whole mess, right? So when we came to Canada, if anybody had told me that I was going to be an international bestseller, I will have told the person to go and sit down. But I wrote a book about coming to Canada, and it had wide acceptance. We made a bestseller in Canada and the United States. And the book is still there, Coming to Canada, the Ultimate Success Guide for newcomers. You can get it on my website at chidispeaks.com, on Amazon or any of the international book. So I had given you the rationale behind the book. Now, what I'm also doing is to go around to talk to people about the content of the book, because as you can see, some of the things I know about the settlement process, I can't keep all of them. I could have written all of them in the book, okay? So I'm an international bestseller. I'm a public speaker right now, trying to help people come in. I sit on the City of Edmonton Red Tape Committee. This is a committee that's formed to help small businesses grow and to remove some of the regulations that tie small businesses down. So I sit on that, and I talk for small businesses, especially businesses in the immigrant community. I won my first election in Canada. That election was for the Edgemont Community League, because again, I want to be involved in my community. So I won the first election, the first time the league was set up, and people were asked to come on board, and they were voting and all that, and it was done. I was nominated for the PTA vice chair at Good Shepherd School, which is where my children attend school. I was nominated for Staff Bata Award. I'm starting founding a not-for-profit. I was promoted to team manager in an industry where practically a new job for me. It wasn't my background was in banking and finance, and then entrepreneurship, but I came in here and I started working in a different industry, entirely new. And within the space of that time, I had proven myself enough that the organization has said, okay, here is your own team, go manage them, and you've shown that you can deliver. I sit on the board of a number of organizations and membership of a number of organizations. I've been the chair of the Igbo Language School Board. I have also been on the board of so many organizations here that cater to the immigrants in the immigrant community. I'm a member of the Conservative Party of Canada. I'm a board member of the United Conservative Party of Alberta. I also have multi-industry experience as a result of working with the temporary agencies, as I have mentioned. So these are some of the things that we've done. A couple of things are in the works which haven't matured. So we are still pushing. The important thing is to learn from this and understand that you are not here for vacation. You are here to live. And what Canada needs the most are people who will come in and impact their community. There's so much to be done, guys. So much to be done. And when I look at it, I said to myself, there are so many ways to contribute. There are so many ways that we can build community. We can build up the provinces where we are. We can build up this country to be great. And one of the ways not to do that is to get into your shell and sit inside in your house and not get engaged with the community. So I will encourage you, please engage with your community. So what did we learn? We learned to be very strategic. Again, it's all part of that. What is the end goal? Where are you headed to? How do you get there? What are the plans? Do you have your goals set out? Have you done your personal SWOT analysis? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your opportunities? What are your threats? Have you done an environmental scan? These are the things that you hear organizations talk about, but then you too need to do all of this. I remember when I was in banking, I used to encourage my staff and say, at the beginning of every year, the organization gives us our budgets, our targets for the year. How many of you have your own personal targets and personal budgets set out as you work for the organization? So we need to be strategic. Like I said, you also need to watch your mindset. Not everything is racism. Guys, not everything should be seen from the lens of being racist. Sometimes people are just plainly stupid, not because they are racist. So it's not every experience that should be translated into that racism. We know that as immigrants, as newcomers, we know as people of color sometimes, we need to work harder than practically every other person to prove ourselves, but that is what it takes. And by the time you do that over and over again, it becomes second place to you, second nature. Guide their mental health. I can't speak about this enough. Mental health among the immigrant community, the statistics are very, very poor. So it's something that we need to speak up. Those of us who have the platform and the opportunity, we speak up about mental health. And part of what you need to do is to understand that these doubts creep in, these anxieties, they come small, these challenges, the feeling of, have I shot myself in the leg? Is this journey worth the while? Have I made the biggest mistake of my life? They start small. So you need to guide your mind. You need to be positive. You need to bombard yourself with positive reaffirmations, reinforcements, and watch what you dwell on. I have seen people who come into this country and they've given up. And they're on the sidelines. These are very smart professionals, very intelligent guys. And they've given up. They're just settled. They just want to do what it is to get by. They are okay. The system had so traumatized them that they just don't want to struggle again. They're just there doing what they can do and paying their bills, and they're happy that they're Canadians. Not you. No more. We need to come out of our shells. We need to come out and take and deliver. We need to be impactful in this place. We need to find ways, figure out ways. And guys, this is not just for you. These are for the people who are coming behind. I started this by saying your journey will inspire somebody someday. If you give up, how can you inspire somebody? You need to go through all this process, and then you can have the opportunity tomorrow to say, these are the things we faced, and these are the things we've done. Well, you need to mind your mental health. I wish I can have opportunity to have this conversation about mental health and the relocation experience. It's such a huge, huge problem in our space, and nobody's talking about it. We need to start talking about it, okay? And we also need to think long-term. What does thinking long-term do for you? So when we came in, we said this Canadian project will be a 10-year project, right? So having gotten that into the vision that it will be about 10 years, it means that the obstacles we see on the short term will not discourage us. It's an obstacle, yes. Well, we'll plan because we know where we're heading to, and we have 10 years to accomplish the things that we want to accomplish. Or if you start thinking that you come in today and everything's going to be settled today, you open yourself to a lot of frustration. Frustration gets into that space, and then you have challenges with your mental health. So it's important for you to think long term. Yeah, everything will work out eventually, but there are no guarantees that they will work out as soon as you land or within the first year that you land in Canada. So tell yourself that and get used to it, okay? And then mentoring, find people who can mentor you, find people that you can go to and be vulnerable, not just about work, but about yourself, about your family, about the roles, the different roles that you play, people that you can open up to say, I need help. I am struggling in this way. How can I figure this out? How can I go through this? How can I manage all these competing challenges that are coming to me at the same time and still be healthy and still be wise and still achieve my goal in a faster, shorter, sooner method? Mentoring is absolutely important. It will be my pleasure to have another platform to talk about mentoring because it's something that we need to do as newcomers. And as people who are looking for work. And of course, you need to embrace your network, increase your network. There are strategic opportunities. There are platforms that you can reach out to people to increase your network. LinkedIn is there. Yeah, the friends and family that you have there, the people that you meet in as you go for phase, they are there. Some of us can lead you to some of that hidden market where you experience things that you never know that exist, can give you opportunities, information that can save you money, and that will be very useful for you in your Canadian journey. Okay, so keep in touch. It's my website, my email, how you can reach out to me if you want it. Now, I'll be willing to take your questions if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chidi. We do have a couple of questions in the chat, but also in the Q&A as well. Would you like to maybe start with the Q&A?
Yes, please.
Okay. To what extent has being away from your support system from Nigeria, such as your family, your community, affected your experience in Canada? How have you managed to build your own support system?
And that's okay. Thank you so much. That's a very interesting and a very good question. We discovered when we left the community support system we had in Nigeria, we discovered there were some Nigerians who were here also. So we got involved in that community as well. So I'm involved in the Nigerian community, I'm involved in the Igbo community, I'm involved in the neighborhood where I live. So it's more or less like starting afresh to rebuild and to have different people, different networking now. So whereas I don't have uncles, my blood-related uncles, there were people who were older than me in the community who became my uncle, who I introduced my kids to, and they become uncles to my kids. There were people I could go to and say, I am struggling with this, please help me. So it was a big challenge, but over a period of time, because we were outgoing, because we were involved in our community, we found even bigger community, if I can say that in a sense here, people who are rooting for you, people who want you to succeed the same way they have succeeded, people who are opening their homes, their hearts, sometimes their purse to you when you have a challenge. So we build it one person at a time. Get involved, find your local community. I can tell you for free, for example, that as we speak today, the 10 biggest growing communities in Canada would be India, the Indian community, the Chinese community, the Filipino community, the Nigerian community, you have the Pakistani community, the United States. Surprisingly, people from the United States, I saw that start and I was like, wow, the Pakistan, down to Eritrea, Iran, etc., etc. the idea of telling you this is that you see that it's big, it's huge. So whereas those who are related to you by birth or by blood may not be here, you have people you can come into and you can reach out to, and they will support you. And we did. I hope that answers that question.
Thank you. That was very helpful. So speaking about, building your community as you settle here, were there any other settlement challenges that you faced early on when you came here?
Yeah, the biggest settlement challenge that we had was information, getting the current and relevant information. Because again, if you don't have the information, you don't know what is going on in the community. And so much is going on in the community. For example, look at this webinar that we have today. I'm sure that by the time you leave here, you will have been a little bit equipped with the knowledge about what to do in your Canadian journey. But how many people know about this information? How many people showed up? How many people actually signed up and didn't show up? So the biggest settlement challenge most of us face is information, getting the right information at the right time. So look for information, seek for it, okay? There are so many agencies that help newcomers. There are so many opportunities, so many people supporting the ecosystem, the newcomer ecosystem. Get involved, seek for help, seek for information from them. I think that is the biggest information that the biggest challenge we have had since we came to in our settlement process, and we've learned from it. So now I look for information a lot, and when I get that information, again, like I have this opportunity, I share it with my fellow newcomers.
Thank you. Continuing on the topic of getting involved or connecting with the community, has COVID-19 and everything being online, how has that affected these opportunities, and what kind of recommendations do you have?
COVID was a big ball that was thrown to everybody, and I am so impressed, so amazed at the way that people showed resilience during that period. Almost all the organizations that are in Canada have support, have things that they're doing to support people during this COVID period. So again, it's a question of you asking, it's a question of you saying, asking for help. One of the beautiful things that have come out of COVID, and people don't talk about it a lot, is the fact that the online system, communication system, have been so enhanced. I am in Edmonton and talking to you about this. Zoom, a couple of other opportunities, communication platforms had helped us bridge again that gap. So COVID has shown the world to be even smaller than we think that it was before. So whereas some of the opportunities you have may not necessarily be as it was pre-COVID, and I give you another example. Before COVID, there are so many organizations, so many government agencies that you can work in, sometimes with appointments, sometimes you can drop in. But with COVID, you now need an appointment, you need to book online, or sometimes they engage you online. Still, they are available. Still look for them and get in and reach out, and they will give you attention, whether it's in person or whether it's online, as the organization is doing at this time.
Okay. What were your main resilience strategies for you and also your family? How for any advice for newcomers to resist the temptation to go back home when you've hit a wall here?
And that's a very great question. The reason why it's amazing and it's a great question is I have seen a lot of people who come into Canada and where they couldn't cope with the transitions that happen within that short period of time. And I can give you a number of examples if you may. Take, for example, the transition in that kids, when you bring in your children here, like I did. My kids were at that cusp of getting into the teenage years. So here they are, pulled out from their circle of confidence, circle of support, their friends, their cousins, their nephews, their grandparents, their uncles and everything. We brought them into this country, throw them into the school. Sometimes they are the only Black person or person of color in their whole class. And now they have to figure out how to settle in Canada, how to settle in school, how to settle in with new curriculum and new teachers, at the same time that are going through the puberty stage where they are dealing with hormones, trying to identify who they are as a distinct individual from their parents and all that. So that's just for kids, for example. I can talk to you also about the transition that I have to do as a dad and as a husband, including intercultural parenting, how challenging it is that some of the things I could do with my kids or about my kids back home, I can't try them here. And how the power relations in a relationship in my marriage had to be properly aligned with what we have in Canada. All of these are challenges that some folks don't cope with, and so they go back. But the question then is, what made you leave or decide to leave in the first instance? Second question would be, did anybody promise you that it will be an easy journey? Third, what do you plan? What is success for you in Canada? You need to define these things. Success means different things for different people. So if you define what success means for you, you now decide that you're going to pay the price. And paying that price to achieve your goal, knowing that what you are doing is not just for you, knowing that what you are doing is for generations that you may never see, their names you may never know, knowing that you are a pathfinder of sort for people who are coming behind you. You can't give up. You can't give up. You've been given a responsibility. You've been given a grace. You've been given the opportunity to impact generations, impact people. You can't abandon ship. And the only way not to abandon ship is to keep focused, understand that this is going to work out well in the end. Again, it will not be in one day. It will not be in 2 weeks. It will not be in 2 years. But I have the ultimate assurance as an incredible optimist that the challenges will be met. And I tell you why I think you are the best person and that you meet them. Because you are well qualified in terms of education. You are well qualified in terms of experience. You have what it takes to succeed in your career before you came in here. And how do I know this? I know this because if you didn't have all of this, the Canadian government won't allow you to come in. So you can't give up. Thank you.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. Sometimes we feel like, oh, we're not enough, but there is a reason why you're here, and there's a reason why they approve, for you to come. That's amazing. Thank you. There is a question about, whether a newcomer should start, when they arrive here, should maybe go back to school or start working, which might be, which one would be the best path, I guess. What was your experience regarding this?
Okay, so that's a very interesting question because I have some information sharing section soon that will come, and it's about student loan, etc., etc. Now, as so many of you know, if you live in some provinces in Canada for 1 year, you qualify to get student loan, grants, etc., to go to school. The problem here is that you are coming into this country, you are not yet settled, and people are giving you advice to go back to school. Now, they tell you that you need Canadian education to get Canadian job, just the same way they tell you you need Canadian experience to get Canadian job. Nobody is talking to us as newcomers, as new immigrants, about what lies behind. What lies behind after. The fact that not everybody who had gone back to school, not everybody who had accumulated the student loan, who had gone back to school and to get the Canadian education, had benefited from that process. So many people here have multiple certifications. I mean, when I mean certification, I mean degrees that they got from when they came into Canada, because they have student loan, they have grant, they're going back to school. None of those had mattered in getting and finding a job. This is one thing that people are not talking about. None of those. So you are here, you are coming in, you are trying to settle, and you have this huge burden on your shoulders that the job you eventually might get or might settle may not have anything to do. As a matter of fact, my wife and I, we went to school. So I'm saying this all from my own personal experience. My wife and I went back to school. I have a certificate in disability studies from Bow Valley College. I had to take student loan to get that, to get that, to go through that process. My wife did a BSc in net and all that. But the jobs that we are doing have not so much relevance to the fact that we went back to school. So it's something that you need to think well before you go in. Take the little money you are bringing to Canada to go and also put in school. And then when you come out, you have the certificate, don't have a job. And so it becomes a little bit challenging. What I would say is this: if you find what you want to do, or if you find a job that you are doing, and this is a caveat, you may take it, it may not be relevant to you. First is to define where you want to go to. Maybe if you find where you want to settle, then you could research. There are some opportunities in terms of grants and government accommodations that helps you to pay a huge or big percentage of the cost of this education in Canada. So it doesn't come out of pocket, and then you don't have to use student loan. That's one of the things that I got to find out very late. The other thing is to ask whether this is relevant, what you are going to do, whether it's relevant in the scheme of things. If you are going to go get a different education in Canada, and in the process you amass a $40,000 student loan, remember that it's going to affect a whole lot of things down the line. It's going to affect your debt to income ratio, for example. When you want to do a mortgage, they will not factor all of that in. And the interest, sit down and calculate the interest you're going to pay within the period of time, in addition to the principal that you're going to repay, and ask yourself whether this is worth it. In some instances, it's worth it. Some other instances, it may not be worth it. You need to think about it deeply and not fall into some of the traps that some of us had fallen in when we came in.